Welcome to the Future 3 podcast. I'm Sean,
I'm Shaylin. And I'm Stein.
and we are the Future 3 podcast.
So today's guest is the head of Treasury operations for Clearway Energy. He is a certified Treasury professional, and he's been in this industry for 20 years. Please welcome Sachin Dedhia.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. I know
Welcome.
I know I'm pretty far down on your list, so I just appreciate the opportunity to be here and to speak with you guys.
We're glad to have you.
This is going to be a very fun episode because we know you're a very funny guy.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's setting the bar pretty high, so I don't know. I'll do my best though.
Yeah, please do. We love that. All right. So before we get started, we're going to ask you for some background about yourself. Let's break it down for us, please.
Sure. So I am a model. I model for luxury and exotic brands. So your audience has probably seen me on TV or in magazines, assuming they actually read magazines or know what magazines even are.
Yeah, I could see you being a model.
Yeah, I think so. I've got the hair for it.
Great hair, by the way.
Yeah. But yeah, no, just to start, I guess from the beginning. So as some of you may know, I am the younger brother of Samir Dedhia, who is the father of these three studs, and so you know, grew up the same way as him in the motel life. I went to Drexel University for college, and you know, went through the whole co-op program, kind of like what he had done. But I would say that's where we started to diverge as far as our paths go. So as far as my degree, I actually went for a quadruple major at Drexel. And so I majored in finance, economics, marketing, and international business. And for the co-op program, you know, you have a couple options there, and usually most of the students will go through the co-op program where you work for 6 months and you go to school for 6 months. They would do that 3 times. And so some people, like I said, they might just kind of like work with the same company for all 3 of those co-ops and kind of like develop and grow from there. I actually took a different approach, and I said, you know, this is a pretty cool opportunity to get to test out different areas and see what's out there. And so I actually worked in 3 different companies, 3 different industries during my co-ops. And so my first one was at Pico Energy, which when you're in Philly, if you think about that big building that has like the, you know, the messages going around the top of it, that was where I worked for my first co-op. My second co-op was at GlaxoSmithKline, which is a pharmaceutical company. And then my third co-op was actually with Deloitte, which is like an accounting firm, but it was kind of part of their consulting business. So just went in completely different areas. And, you know, what I really liked and where I wanted to take advantage of that opportunity is like to get to understand different parts of the business, to understand how those things kind of fit together. And that's also like how it worked for when I was going from my degree too, where I mentioned those 4 different areas. They're different areas of business, but it was really cool to see how the different pieces fit together. From there, I, you know, as I was nearing graduation and looking for kind of like an industry and company to go with, I actually had an opportunity to join Lockheed Martin, which is an aerospace and defense contractor. And they had a program that's called the Finance Leadership Development Program. So it was kind of like, similarly, an opportunity to get to see different areas of the business and something that's available for high potential members that were just getting their career started, to get some of those types of opportunities. And so I ended up going through that program, spent about 10 years at Lockheed, and then was looking for a change, looking to do something different, pivoted and went to another company called NRG Energy. When you think of the Houston Texans, you think of NRG
Yeah.
Stadium. That's
Hmm.
that's these guys. But they were building up their renewable energy business, and so it again seemed like a really cool opportunity, something new and different to get into and just experience. And so decided to go over there, and NRG eventually sold their renewable energy business. And so that's what formed Clearway. It's been like another 10 years or so. And that's what gets me to here.
That's a
Not,
great way to becoming a model.
yeah, that's what I was going to say. Not as fun as being a model. And, maybe my next 10 years, I'll try and do that.
I really like how you kind of explore different careers rather than just committing to one, because I know a lot of people, they'll just say, "Oh, I'm going for one thing and then I'm just going to follow that one thing for the rest of my life." But you kind of it's interesting with this quadruple major. I never really heard of it. Have you
Yeah.
guys?
I've never
Yes.
heard it. Never.
Yeah, it's like it kind of gives you an opportunity to explore everything and kind of pick from there. I might end up considering that now that I think about it.
Same here.
Yeah, for
Mm.
sure. And I think it's part of the Indian mentality where you can call us cheap or frugal, or we try and get the most bang for our buck. But that's kind of how it was there. Like I was saying before, it also really fit into just that idea of like, you know, maybe not being a subject matter expert, but just jack of all trades and seeing how those pieces fit together, and kind of like just getting your brain to think in that way too.
Yeah,
Mm.
for sure. I remember one of me and Sean's coaches, he told us when he was talking about soccer, he was saying that any college coach or a high level coach would rather take a player that plays multiple positions than one that's just set to one position, even though he may be very good. And that kind of applies to this as well.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, one thing kind of to keep it with sports is if you think about Anthony Davis, right? So growing up, he was, yep, growing up,
Big Ram.
he was actually a little bit smaller. And so in high school, I think he was actually like a point guard. And then right before college, he had this huge growth spurt, shot up, and ended up being a center. But he had the skills of being a point guard, which actually worked because then he could have a handle that a lot of big guys couldn't have. And so that gave him a leg up. I think the other part of it too is you get to, even if you do go in one direction, you at least have some of that knowledge and background that you can kind of go back on and again see how it relates. So even if you're thinking about positions, you might be playing a defender, but if you have an idea of like, hey, what that left center's thinking as he's coming towards you and what direction he's going to go, what his mindset's going to be, that's going to give you an advantage too. So I think that's the other part of it too, not just being able to fit in and plug in, but even just to be able to think about, how the other side is looking.
That was a great comparison.
Yeah.
Again, I can cover it all, man. Jack of
Uh-huh.
all trades right here.
Fun fact right here, Anthony Davis and Sean and I share a birthday actually, so that was pretty
Yup.
cool.
There you go. Who do you share a
Mm.
birthday with, Sign?
Howie Roseman, the best GM in the world.
It's a good one.
If I
And
had to
another
pick, I would pick that one.
Hmm.
okay, so let's dive into your high school life. When you were, let's say, a sophomore or junior, did you know what you wanted to do in your future?
I did not. I would say a big part of me probably thought I was going to go into like an entrepreneurial type of route. Um, just because that's all I knew at the time. Even in high school, as I started working and taking on part-time jobs, it was usually, you know, with an entrepreneur. It was, working at a convenience store, working at a liquor store, just like odd jobs like that. And so it was always kind of thinking like, all right, that's probably the path I'll go. And also, I didn't necessarily see myself as fitting in a corporate environment, right?
Mm.
Being unique is a lot better.
Yeah, definitely. And also, really quick question for you. So we interviewed Dad. He
I
his
met him
dream
before,
job.
yes.
Yeah, I bet you have. So his dream job was to be a stockbroker on Wall Street, and your wife's dream job was to be a Bollywood actress. So what was yours?
Huh. You know, I would say it would probably be something in either the sports or music arena, right? Um, if I'm thinking about the music, it was producing songs and DJing and some of that. I think that's probably what stands out as like the area where I'd be like, oh yeah, like that's what I'm gonna do. That's what I dream of as a kid to go into. And then I could have produced music for Dipti Kaki's Bollywood movies. It would have been amazing. But here we are.
Tag team.
So I guess even just to back up, because I'm not sure as far as if you guys know what Treasury is or you know what Clearway does, but it might be worth giving a little insight into some of that too. So do you have any thoughts, or is it something you need me to go into?
I
I
think you
have
should.
no idea what it is.
I think you should go into that,
Hmm.
explaining that.
Yeah, sure. Um, so when you think about treasury within a company, we're essentially the ones managing the money. So we have to make sure that the company has the money and the cash on hand to pay its bills, to meet its obligations. If we have extra money in the bank, we're investing that to make sure that we're making the most out of it and earning it. And then we're also managing the relationships with the different banks and our counterparties on like the banking side. We're a larger scale renewable energy provider. And so when you see like a large field with thousands of solar panels or wind turbines at like the tops of mountains, that's kind of what Clearway does. And we build and own and operate those across the country. And so each of those each of those solar or wind farms, they cost hundreds of millions of dollars to build, right? And so in order to build those, what we typically are doing is we're going to borrow money from the bank, and then we're going to have to pay that money back, that loan back to the banks over, say, the next 20 or 30 years. We're using the cash that that solar farm is earning to pay off those loans. And so it's kind of similar to like what your dad was saying with mortgages, right? Like you're borrowing money from the bank to pay to buy that house. It's a similar type of dynamic, you could say here, where we're taking out loans and borrowing money to build this renewable energy. So my team's primary role is in managing all of the activity around those and working with the banks. And so we're kind of like the middleman between the company and the banking industry and just really managing that relationship. It'd be really helpful if you could also explain that to Dipti Kaki because she has no idea what I do. So
make sure
maybe
to
we can
make
summarize
sure you
it.
tell her to watch the video.
I think so. Yeah. I think she's a subscriber already. So
Yeah, love that. So that I really like that piece because that was a lot of information as to what treasury actually is, which I think many people just think like including me to be honest, because in our school the only time that I ever heard of treasury was when there's elections for the school treasurer.
Yeah.
And immediately I just think about handling money. But your job is kind of more specifically in the renewable energy area.
Yeah, and I would say I think the school treasurer is probably foundationally it's similar, right? Because they're managing the money and making sure that there's enough money to pay for the dance, pay for whatever activities you guys are looking to do, right? So it's a similar type of concept. I think the one thing to consider is like a lot of different industries and like a lot of different areas within different career paths, there are differences there too, right? Maybe some of it is similar, and then some of the activities are completely different because we're structured in a different way, or we have other departments or other teams that might support areas. And I would say the other piece too is like it's not the managing the money is one part of it. A big piece of it too, though, is just like the processes and the relationship building, both internally, like understanding the business, as well as with the banks, right?
Yeah. So I heard you mention that a big part of your job is relationship building, and I feel like dad also said the same exact thing. So
Hmm.
is that one of the lessons you kind of learned through your teen life?
It is. And I would say I'm more often than not, I'm not going to have all the answers, right? If somebody from my team or somebody, a peer within the company has a question for me, chances are I'm not going to know the exact answer to it, but I'm going to know who you should talk to. And that's because of the relationships you build, right? The other thing too, I would say with relationship building is, you know, what I've always, I think, enjoyed is building those relationships outside of just your work, right? And the one story I always think about is with your dada and when he first came to the country. So I don't know how much um of like his early life about, but he when he first came to the US, he went to Western Kentucky, right? Middle of nowhere, didn't know anybody. Um, kind of like lived in the sponsor family, which I think you guys had talked about before. But one of the things that I thought was really interesting is when he was at Western Kentucky, that was, I think, the first and maybe the only time that Western Kentucky made it to the Final Four in March Madness.
Oh wow.
Oh, wow. And so when he was there, basketball was a huge thing, right? And so that's how he actually kind of started to really build like a fandom and a love for sports was because he kind of got dropped into this town in the middle of America, not knowing anybody, but he everybody was super excited about the basketball team, and so he started to follow them and got really involved and was able to talk to his classmates about it and again start to build those relationships. And then when he comes to Philadelphia and starts working, that's when the Flyers were becoming were a big thing with the Broad Street Bullies. The Sixers started winning. The Eagles made it to their first Super Bowl. The Phillies were winning. And so again, that's how he started to kind of be able to assimilate to the culture was through sports. And so I think that was also, something I really enjoy is like we always do, right? We're learning about sports. We're talking about different sports, even thinking about TV shows or current events. Those are the things that I think are really important to be able to kind of like have that small talk and start to build those relationships with people, right? And so I think that's an important part of it too, is like just building those relationships beyond your day-to-day work. but just finding commonalities and things that you can be able to connect with people on is pretty important in that process.
So I got 3 takeaways from that.
Yeah.
To be able to communicate with others and build relationships, you have to find common ground with each other. And also, I did not know that Dada went to Western Kentucky.
Yeah.
No.
The Hilltoppers.
Uh, And I think Dada might be the good luck charm.
If you ask him, he would probably disagree with that since they're
Yeah.
always losing and he's not the most optimistic person. But again, that's why he fit in so well in Philly.
Exactly. The Eagles would win by like 40, and then Dada would just be sitting on the couch angry because I don't know, Nick Sirianni got mad at the team or something like so funny. Negative
Mhm.
Nancy.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, see, you guys, like we always say, you guys grew up in, a golden era of sports
Yeah, I
where you
know.
got to see
Mhm.
a lot of wins. We didn't have that. So we've got a hard surface that you got to break through before we can celebrate.
Yeah, we got to see 3 Eagles Super Bowls, 2 wins, and, Phillies World Series.
Mhm. Mhm. Took about 30 years before I was able to enjoy any of that.
So, while we're talking about success, of course, Philly sports is great, but we know you went to Drexel. And during those 4 years where you quadruple majored and experienced many different things, were there any moments that changed your view on success?
Yeah, it's a good question. Um, I would say there are a couple moments that I think changed it. Um, One was so another fun fact about my college career was I actually graduated with a 4.0 GPA, and
Nerd.
so a little bit.
Smart guy.
And what I've always mentioned is having that 4.0 wasn't a sign that I was the smartest person. And I, to this day, in most of the classes I was in, I was not the smartest person. But what I always look at that GPA as is it's a sign of I'm gonna bust my butt and work hard at it. And it's like if I have a goal out there, it might be a challenge, but I'm gonna find a way to get it done. And so I think it's more about putting in the hard work and being able to succeed. Bringing it back to sports, a lot of times you're kind of going through the grunt work of the practices and even in games and things like that, and it's going to be a pain. And you're in the middle of it. You're like, this is the worst thing ever. I hate this. I'm you know practicing in the pouring rain and this is terrible, but when you actually, reach the quote unquote mountaintop, right? When you start to see that hard work paying off and you can kind of look back on it and, you know, quote unquote lift that trophy or have that moment, then that's that's where it feels like it's all been worth it. And so I think it's kind of just like continuing with that mindset, right? And looking for those wins in whatever form they are and using that as motivation for kind of the hard work and seeing that that hard work did pay off in some form or fashion.
Yeah, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
Words of wisdom.
That's why we bring Sean here.
Exactly. That was an interesting take because from what I took from that was hard work equals success. Is that accurate?
I think that's a good way to put it, right? Or hard work leads to success, right? Again, success can mean different things, right?
So we just interviewed your wife, as you know, and you guys kind of have similar personalities because you guys both said when something gets difficult, you guys are going to put your head down and work even harder to make the situation better.
Yeah, I think that's fair. When there's a problem, a lot of times it's easy to spiral when it comes to it, right? Because you're thinking about, hey, I've got to figure out this issue, and oh, there are all these different problems that are going to come about, and get in the way of it. But what I've found that works the best for me is like I just need to take some time to myself, think through, gather my thoughts, get a sheet of paper, just start writing stuff down and take it step by step to get there, right? And and just those baby steps, you'll continue to go. You're going to move in the right direction. You're g- you're going to start to kind of have things fall into place, but you're not going to get there unless you actually get that sheet of paper out and start getting your thoughts together, and just start to crank it out, right?
Yeah, being organized is important.
For sure. Yeah. It's definitely a big part of it. I mean, one thing I've seen, and in my role right now, it's really about being able to handle a lot of different priorities and tasks, and you know, being able to stay organized with it.
That is really interesting. So now going from college into your work life, everybody has the most shocking things about their jobs. But what was one like really surprising misunderstanding that of your career that people may not know?
Um, you know, I would say it was probably what Treasury does, for a company, because there are skills that can translate from one industry to another, from one department to another, that I can take with me. And then also using the fact that I'm not the smartest person in the room as an advantage, right? And you always hear of like people being ignorant and ignorance. And I think it tends to have a negative connotation with it, right? Like, oh, if somebody's ignorant, they don't know what's going on. But I think one thing I was able to learn and kind of pick up is like ignorance can be a good thing, right? It forces you to go into a meeting and be willing to say, like, hey, I don't know what you guys are talking about. Can you explain it to me? And then be able to learn and then contribute to that conversation, right? And so I think just the fact that not knowing what I was getting myself into, um, ended up being an advantage, and that was something that I think was a bit of a surprise or a shock to the system, even for myself.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like many people don't even know what treasury is. Like, I just learned so much about what treasury actually is, and that was really interesting, and I think that's definitely a solid misunderstanding, who has no idea what anything in treasury even means. Yeah, and we also learned that it's not just about managing money. It's also about other it's also about other skills like communication.
And asking questions is really, really important because if you don't understand what you're doing, then you won't be like helping the company improve and grow.
Yeah, for sure. And it's kind of like it serves two purposes when you're asking a question, right? It's for yourself to learn and to understand something, but it's also a way for them to be able to think through the question and the problem, right?
Yeah, and in your role, it's obviously important to always be learning every day to improve yourself. And yeah, so for your occupation, would you consider yourself to be a more riskier or conservative person?
Mm. I would say for myself, I'd probably fall more on the conservative side. Probably more so on the side of calculated risks, or, you know, maybe more conservatively thinking through those and selecting, being more selective with the risks I'm
Yeah.
taking. Um, but that's where I think I would kind of fall.
Also, dad is always telling us that if everyone is going one way, you should go the other way.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's having the confidence to do so is probably the biggest piece of it, right? But if you have the confidence that I'm going to learn a ton from this, and even if this job went away, I've proven that I can add value to the company. I would say it builds a lot within you to then be able to not feel scared or fearful of trying something new and different, because you have faith in yourself that you're going to be able to, if crap hit the fan, you'd be able to find something else within either the company or somewhere else to be able to emerge and become stronger from it.
Yeah, for sure. High risk, high reward. It's-
Mhm.
So,
Calculated
Sachin,
though. Mhm.
yeah. Do
do
you
you
have
have
any
any
questions
questions
for
for
us?
us?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, one thing I was thinking about is just, we kind of talked about it a little bit um, a few minutes ago, as far as like what I view as success. But what does success look like for you guys?
I think big picture for myself, success to me means keeping the lifestyle that I already have. Because right now we have a great lifestyle, a great family supporting us.
Okay, cool. I mean, it's
Yeah.
interesting. It's all interesting. I think you guys are thinking about it the correct way. It's just continuing to reevaluate and reassess and remind yourself on what those values and what success looks like to you. And then kind of like, as decision points come your way, see how that fits in, and does it align? Is it something that will lead to future success, or how does your decision fit into it?
Yeah, reevaluate's a great word to describe it because you have to prioritize what means most to you.
I think knowing who you are and how that aligns with your values, what's important to you, and what success looks like, those all kind of fit together. But then also understanding that, and being willing to sometimes have to put myself outside of that comfort zone, right? So know who you are, but then realize, like, sometimes you're going to have to either put yourself out there or the other way around, right? If you're a super outgoing person, sometimes you're going to have to take a step back and kind of um, um, take some time to yourself and reflect.
Yeah, exactly. Stay calm in the most pressured moments because that's really where you're going to shine.
I don't fold under pressure. I succeed.
Let's see if that happens in baseball.
Don't worry, it will. All
All
right.
right.
Well, thanks for
Batting a
coming on to this
thousand.
podcast.
Thanks, guys, for having me again. Congratulations on launching this, and really looking forward to seeing you guys continue to grow it, and all the benefits that's coming from it.
Yeah, thank you
Thank
so
you.
Appreciate it.
much. Gave some great advice today. Thank you for all that.
Thanks for having me.
Make sure to take care of your luscious hair.
Whoa.
The, the only hair is here.
Yeah.
That's all I got. That's all I got left.
All right. Well, we are the Future 3 podcast, and we're out. Peace.
Peace.